How do you keep believing in something before there's any visible proof? Before there are results? Before there is applause? Before there is evidence that what you're building is actually working? A century ago, scientists faced a similar problem. They believed something existed that no one had ever seen. A black hole. The math suggested that if enough mass collapsed inward, gravity would become so strong that even light could not escape. But no one had seen such a thing. There were no images, no photographs, no direct observation. Just equations and trust. For decades, black holes were theoretical. Scientists spoke about them very carefully, not as fantasy, not as myth, but as a logical consequence of the rules they believed governed reality. They were willing to hold something in their minds long before they could hold it in their hands. And there was doubt. Even Einstein questioned whether such an object could truly exist. It felt too extreme, too absolute. Sometimes, when something challenges our comfort with how the world works, we assume it must be wrong. Not because it's false, but because it stretches us. Eventually, astronomers noticed stars moving in strange ways, orbiting something unseen, moving too fast for an empty space. There was no glowing object, no visible surface. But the motion told a story, and that was enough. It took nearly 100 years before we captured the first image of a black hole's shadow. A century. Most of the people who first believed in them never lived to see that confirmation. They worked anyway. They trusted anyway. They continued the work without any visible reward. There's something deeply human about that. Building something that you may not see completed. Believing in growth before it becomes obvious. Moving forward without immediate validation. Gravity is invisible. You can't see it, but you trust it. You trust that when you step forward, the ground will meet you. Not everything powerful announces itself. Some forces shape your life quietly, without spectacle. There's a discipline to believing in something unseen. Not blind belief, not fantasy, but steady commitment without immediate confirmation. The scientists who trusted the mathematics did not wake up each morning wondering if the equations still worked. They tested them, refined them, built on them. They allowed time to do its part. Belief, in that sense, is not emotional. It's procedural. You show up, you do the work, you let patterns accumulate. And you resist the urge to abandon something simply because it hasn't revealed itself yet. Sometimes the proof arrives long after the effort. Sometimes it arrives for someone else to witness. But the work still mattered. You may be in a season right now where nothing feels visible. Effort without response. Work without recognition. Change without applause. But unseen does not mean unreal. Motion reveals mass. Influence reveals presence. The fact that something is not obvious does not mean it's not forming. We knew black holes existed long before we saw one, because the patterns were consistent, because the influence was measurable, because reality leaves traces. You may not see the full picture yet, but if the direction is steady, if the movement is consistent, if the pull is real, then something's there. Sometimes the most powerful things in the universe begin as quiet belief.